You're tuned to Channel X. This is Mike Clark broadcasting live from somewhere still standing. It's 11:47 p.m. Eastern Time. At least, it was when the clock stopped syncing an hour ago. If you can hear my voice, you're part of a very small group. Most major stations went off air after the blast reports from Washington. I repeat, those reports are still unconfirmed, but multiple sources say the Capitol is gone. All we know is the White House feed cut mid-sentence during a national address, and the emergency broadcast system has been silent ever since. The Pentagon's satellite uplink went offline 2 hours later. Julia and I are running on backup transmitters from the old ChannelX facility. No official statements, no chain of command, no answers. Just silence. I don't know if this broadcast will reach anyone, but if it does, stay calm, stay where you are, and conserve power. Something enormous has happened tonight, and the country you woke up in may not exist anymore.
Mike's right. Everything feels wrong tonight. I've been trying to reach anyone, newsrooms, emergency contacts, even local police, but the lines are either jammed or dead. What's strange is that nobody's claiming responsibility. No chatter, no leaks, nothing. It's as if the entire upper level of government just vanished at once. People are calling in through shortwave, reporting tremors in D.C., smoke over the river, military aircraft heading south without transponders. One caller swore he saw flashes near Andrews Air Force Base, then nothing but dark. If you're listening, please avoid major roads. We've heard traffic's being diverted away from the Capitol by unmarked units. No insignia, no visible ID. I can't verify that, but the pattern's real. A blackout in leadership and a vacuum that's pulling everything down with it.
Our producer's been gone since noon. We haven't heard from anyone above regional command since then. It feels strange to sit here, reading headlines that don't exist anymore. The newsroom is candlelit. We've lost half our monitors to power fluctuations, and the emergency generator hums like it's alive. But we'll stay here as long as this transmitter holds. Listeners, if you can send confirmation, Morse, digital ping, anything, let us know who's still out there. We're not calling this an attack yet, but it feels deliberate. Too precise, too total. Someone, or something, wanted silence at the top. The last official message we received was a 2-word text through an encrypted channel. Hold frequency. We intend to do exactly that.
Hold frequency. I keep repeating that in my head like it means something beyond survival. I keep thinking of the families near D.C., children, workers, commuters who didn't know the sky was about to fall. The emergency apps went dark so fast, even FEMA's site is gone. That shouldn't be possible. We're watching the death of the information age in real time. The digital heartbeat of America has flatlined, and all we have left are analog voices bouncing through the void. Mike, it's eerie. Our signal's clear tonight. Too clear. Like something cleared the airwaves. Maybe we're not the only ones transmitting. Maybe others are out there waiting for someone to speak first. If you can hear us, Channel X is alive. You're not alone.
If the official networks are gone, then this frequency is your line to the truth. Don't trust any automated broadcasts. They're likely running ghost loops. We've confirmed that several government updates are pre-recorded feeds from earlier in the week. What's happening right now is bigger than a blackout. This feels orchestrated. The president was supposed to address national security reforms tonight. Instead, the Capitol's gone silent, and every chain of authority seems severed. If this is the beginning of something larger, then history's turning as we speak. Keep listening. Keep recording. You're tuned to Channel X, America's last open signal.
We'll stay on the air through the night, even if it's just to prove someone's still speaking. The wind outside's howling through broken glass, and the city's too quiet. There are no planes, no sirens, no human noise, just this voice and the static between. If anyone can confirm visual contact near the Capitol, send coordinates. Until then, this is Julia Marks, with Mike Clark, holding the frequency. Stay alive, stay listening. Channel X will return after system stabilization. Don't go dark.
This is Channel X, still transmitting. We've just received confirmation from multiple independent sources, reliable ones, that the President of the United States is dead. I'll repeat that. The President has been confirmed dead, along with the Speaker of the House. There are no official networks left to verify the sequence of events, but reports indicate simultaneous detonations across several federal sites, including Capitol Hill and the Eisenhower Executive Office. The acting vice president's location is unknown. Military chatter suggests what's being described as internal divergence. That's their term, not ours. It implies fracture, conflict within the armed forces themselves. Julia's been listening to the intercepted traffic. The phrases are chilling. Non-compliance, splintered command, section red. We don't yet know what those mean, but listeners, understand this. The government as we know it may have ceased to exist tonight. The voice of leadership is gone, and what fills that silence will define the next century. Stay on this frequency. If you still believe in facts, we're one of the last places left giving them.
I don't know how to process this, Mike. We've covered wars, disasters, even coups abroad, but never this. Hearing the word assassination tied to our own capital feels impossible. One of our field correspondents, before going dark, sent a message through a civilian repeater. They're turning on each other. He didn't specify who they were, just those words. His signal cut after that. If the president and speaker are gone, that means the constitutional line of succession is shattered. The government has no legal executive core. The next in line would have been pro-tempore Senate leadership, but there's no trace of them either. I keep checking my notepad like the laws will reassemble themselves, like there's still a structure somewhere. But this isn't a crisis of power, it's a crisis of existence. The foundation itself is gone.
Julia, I think it's worse than we imagined. The encrypted military stream I've been monitoring, it just changed tone. The phrases are no longer coded directives. They're broadcasts of position and allegiance. Units identify themselves not by country, but by command faction. I'm listening to Blue Division, Continental Guard, True Republic. None of those are official designations. They're self-assigned. It means the chain of command has fractured completely. We've confirmed armed clashes between American soldiers in multiple regions, Maryland, Ohio, and parts of Texas. It's no longer coordinated defense. It's infighting. The military's turning inward, and when that happens, there's no one left to protect the civilians. The silence from NORAD and Strategic Command is deafening. It's not that they're not speaking. It's that there's no one left to answer.
Mike, I can't stop thinking about the last line of the oath every elected official swears, to defend against enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't think anyone ever imagined both would be the same people. Listeners are sending us coordinates from abandoned checkpoints, photos of flags torn down from federal buildings, soldiers removing insignia. It's like watching the symbols of unity dissolve one by one. If you're hearing this and you're in uniform, please remember your oath to protect the people, not the power structure. The citizens didn't ask for this war. They didn't ignite it. They're just trying to survive the fallout of a system that couldn't hold. We're not supposed to editorialize, but at this point, what's left to protect but truth?
This broadcast may become the archive of what happened here. Maybe one day, historians or survivors will replay this and hear how civilization sounded as it fractured. The president's name, the speakers, their titles, all of it will fade into the static of history. What remains will be the silence that follows them. We'll keep speaking into that silence for as long as the power holds, because once the microphones go cold, it'll be like none of this ever happened. You're still listening to Channel X. If you can hear us, it means the idea of America, whatever's left of it, is still alive in you.
Hold that thought, Mike. I'm seeing an incoming data pulse, shortwave, not digital. The source tag reads Continuity Archive, possibly from an old emergency relay. It's a recording, a voice claiming to be part of the last Operational Security Council. It's looping a phrase, "This is not the end." The Republic will realign. We'll analyze it during the next cycle. For now, listeners, remember that history doesn't vanish overnight. It's torn apart piece by piece until someone decides to rebuild it. You're not just hearing the fall of a nation. You're hearing the space where something new could begin. Stay alive. Stay listening. This is Julia Marks, signing off this segment of Channel X.
You're tuned to Channel X. It's been a full day since the first reports of coordinated strikes in the capital, and the situation has collapsed faster than anyone could have imagined. Military command is no longer unified. We're receiving conflicting transmissions from separate headquarters, each claiming to represent the legitimate defense structure of the United States. Fort Bragg, Colorado Springs, and an unnamed base in Nevada are issuing contradictory orders. Some are even telling troops to stand down, while others call for restoration by force. It's a civil war in everything but name. Soldiers who once trained together are now taking up positions against each other. We've heard verified reports of armored convoys exchanging fire outside St. Louis, and one listener in Kentucky claims to have seen aircraft without national markings overhead. Julia and I are broadcasting from an undisclosed relay. The city outside is quiet, too quiet. The air smells like burning copper. We've switched to manual transmission to avoid detection from any of the factions. The flag outside the building's been taken down. Nobody knows what it stands for anymore.
Mike, the word people keep repeating in the messages we receive is betrayal. Soldiers feel betrayed by their leaders, citizens betrayed by their country. One message came through an encrypted civilian band. It was from a medic near Des Moines. He said half his unit defected overnight, refusing to follow what they called illegitimate orders. They've joined a new group calling itself the Continental Alliance. No insignia, no national mandate, just a promise to defend the people of the land. It sounds noble until you realize every faction believes it's doing the same. The roads are full of armed checkpoints now, all flying different banners. It's like the country's been torn into patches of ideology, stitched together by fear. Listeners, if you must travel, avoid convoys, avoid any cluster of vehicles claiming authority. The rules of yesterday no longer exist. Authority is now whoever controls the nearest gun.
That medic Julia mentioned isn't alone. We're picking up hundreds of messages from splinter units identifying themselves under new names. The Union Guard, Free States Militia, the Loyal Corps. Each claims legitimacy. Each broadcasts its own anthem, its own frequency. The United States military was once the backbone of global order. Now it's a shattered mirror, each piece reflecting a different vision of what this country was meant to be. There's chatter that a retired general, unnamed, but referred to as the Architect, has taken control of a coalition of bases across the Midwest. His units are enforcing martial law for national preservation. Others accuse him of staging the assassinations that started all this. We can't confirm either side. Julia, it's strange. This feels less like a coup and more like a system tearing itself apart from within. The design breaking under its own weight.
It does, Mike. And what's terrifying is how quickly ordinary people are adapting. Listeners tell us small towns are setting up local militias for defense, but those militias are already fighting each other over resources. In one broadcast from North Carolina, a mayor declared his city sovereign. His speech lasted 4 minutes before the feed was cut, gunfire audible in the background. I used to believe order would return after every crisis. That's what history teaches you to expect. But this feels permanent. The institutions are gone, the laws hollow. People are creating new systems overnight, some humane, others monstrous. ChannelX was never meant to be a survival broadcast, but that's what it's become. A voice in the dark, trying to remember what the truth sounded like.
Our frequency map just updated. Entire regions have gone silent. California, most of the East Coast, parts of the Great Lakes. The airwaves are empty except for military chatter and scattered amateur signals. The map looks like a dying constellation. Points of light vanishing one by one. Julia, do you remember when we used to joke about what it would take to end the 24-hour news cycle? Turns out it wasn't politics. It was entropy. Listeners, if you can still hear this broadcast, write down what you see. Record your stories. History is no longer written by governments. It's written by survivors.
Before this segment ends, I want to read something a listener sent us over shortwave. It's unsigned. It says, "The flag means nothing now, but the stars are still in the same sky. We'll find each other again under that light. I don't know who wrote it, but I think they're right. Even when everything collapses, symbols only die if we let them. If you're still human, still listening, hold on to compassion like it's the last law left." This is Julia Marks with Mike Clark, Channel X. Hold frequency.
You're listening to Channel X. If you've just tuned in, we can now confirm what many feared. The federal government of the United States has formally ceased to exist. The last recorded message from what remained of the Emergency Council was a single line. Continuity is no longer viable. The line went dead moments later. Multiple states have since declared provisional independence. The governors of Texas, Florida, and Washington have each announced the formation of temporary regional governments, claiming to act for stability and defense. Meanwhile, the Midwest has aligned itself under a coalition called the Central Compact. No constitution, no Congress, no command structure, just fragments. The Great Union has dissolved into geography. The dollar's value is falling faster than anyone can measure. Banks are closed indefinitely. Federal law enforcement is gone. If you're holding cash, it's worth less by the hour. Julia and I are reading reports of citizens using canned food, batteries, even gasoline as currency. America isn't functioning. It's scavenging.
And what's strange, Mike, is how calm some of it feels. There's a quiet acceptance out there, like people have already started rewriting the rules in their heads. We've received intercepted broadcasts from former state capitals, leaders speaking like revolutionaries, promising rebirth instead of rescue. The flags they raise aren't red, white, and blue. They're improvised, stitched from local colors and symbols. Some call themselves republics, others alliances, communes, collectives. Everyone's declaring something, but no one's declaring unity. There's a recording going around social bands of a man calling himself the interim president of the Western states. He speaks like he believes it. No one challenged him because there's no system left to say he can't. Maybe this is how a country dies, not with riots or war, but with too many voices saying they're the one that matters.
You're right, Julia. There's no more America, just the memory of it, stretched across 100 different frequencies, each one claiming to speak for the people, each one calling the others illegitimate. The regional alliances have started to draft their own constitutions already. The Central Compact is offering citizenship in exchange for labor. The Southern Authority is demanding loyalty oaths. The Western states are broadcasting messages about freedom from corruption, though no one can say who's funding them. I don't think anyone planned this. It's chaos pretending to be orderly, a patchwork stitched from panic and ambition, the kind of power vacuum history warns about, the kind that swallows everything.
People are asking what happens now. I wish I had an answer. The courts are gone, the military fractured, and the digital infrastructure that once connected us has collapsed. It's ironic. After years of talking about disinformation and digital warfare, the truth finally broke under its own weight. There are no verified facts anymore, just competing narratives fighting for bandwidth. But even in this collapse, there's something stubbornly human about how people are adapting. A farmer in Kansas started a local trade station. A teacher in Oregon reopened her school inside an abandoned firehouse. Someone in Detroit's transmitting medical guides over amateur radio. Maybe this is what survival looks like. Small, unglamorous acts of rebuilding while the world burns around them.
I can't shake the image of the old American flag that used to hang in this studio. We took it down after the building was shelled last night, but it's still here, folded in the corner. I don't know what it means anymore. Maybe it's a relic. Maybe it's a promise. The United States began as an idea long before it was a government. Maybe the idea can survive even when the structure can't. Or maybe we've just proven that even the strongest foundation can crumble if enough people stop believing in it. Either way, we're here to document what comes next.
If you're still listening, you're part of history now. Write down what you see. Protect your memories. They might be the only record left of what this country once was. And if you hear anyone claiming to rebuild the Union, ask them what they mean by union. Ask them who it's for. Because unity without compassion is just control wearing a new name. We'll keep broadcasting until our power runs out. This is Julia Marks with Mike Clark, ChannelX. Hold frequency.
You're tuned to ChannelX, and if this broadcast still reaches you, it means the grid hasn't completely died where you are. But here, it's already over. The dollar has collapsed. The markets, what's left of them, fell in less than a day once the Federal Reserve systems went offline. Every major bank has frozen accounts. ATMs are empty husks. Credit cards, useless. Digital payments stopped working sometime after midnight, and the backup servers never came back online. The infrastructure that carried the economy has been gutted. People are trading in batteries, antibiotics, cigarettes, bullets, anything tangible. Some stations are broadcasting barter rates like old stock tickers. 1 gallon of gas equals 3 pounds of rice. Julia and I watched the lights in the distance go dark an hour ago. Every major city is now running on its last reserves of fuel. I keep hearing the same phrase repeated in pirate transmissions. Value is gone.
We're getting messages from everywhere, Mike. One from a listener in Chicago says grocery stores were stripped clean within hours. Armored trucks left the depots without orders. No one knows who's driving them now. Pharmacies barricaded, hospitals overwhelmed, fuel stations guarded by armed civilians. A nurse from Atlanta said their backup generator stopped when the diesel ran out. They had to decide who lived by flashlight. You can hear it in their voices, the shift from panic to something colder. Acceptance. People are realizing this isn't temporary. The economy didn't crash. It dissolved like sugar in boiling water. And when it's gone, there's no sweetness left. Just the taste of metal in the air and the sound of neighbors turning on each other for what's left.
I used to think collapse would come with fanfare. Sirens, explosions, chaos in the streets. But it's quieter than that. It's the silence of a cashier saying we're closed for the last time. It's a mother standing in front of a dead screen, realizing her child's food delivery app isn't coming back. It's the dull panic when you realize the system wasn't an enemy. It was a scaffold, and now it's gone. Regional authorities are issuing their own paper currencies already, stamped with state seals and militia emblems. Some are worth something for a day, maybe 2. Others are just decoration. The global markets have cut us off entirely. The United States has fallen off the map, economically, diplomatically, existentially.
A truck driver sent us a recording from the road near Denver. He said he saw hundreds of cars abandoned, people walking with suitcases along the interstate, families with children carrying whatever they could before the fuel ran out. It's like an exodus, he said, but there's nowhere to go. He tried to stop and help, but armed men turned him away. Every gas station he passed was flying a different flag, some local, some foreign, some he didn't recognize. That's the new border now, whatever you can defend with bullets or words. The sound of commerce has been replaced by the sound of hunger.
Julia, I keep thinking about how fragile it all was. We used to measure wealth in screens and digits, numbers that never truly existed. Now people are fighting for the things they once threw away. Old fuel cans, water filters, hand-cranked radios. Civilization turned inside out overnight. The global networks that defined the modern world went down like dominoes, and the rest followed. You can't eat data. You can't drink profit. We're back to the oldest currency, trust. And that's running out too.
If you're hearing this, don't wait for rescue. Don't wait for help that isn't coming. Find your community. Share what you have, not because it's noble, but because it's survival. No one's going to rebuild the economy from the top down. It'll be rebuilt from campfires, from neighbors who still remember kindness. I know it sounds naive, but if there's any value left, it's in that. Everything else, the wealth, the markets, the empire, it's all gone. This is Julia Marks with Mike Clark, ChannelX. Hold frequency.
You're still listening to ChannelX. The reports coming in are grim, and the situation is deteriorating faster than any of us could have imagined. Shortages have reached levels we could only predict in theoretical scenarios. Food, medicine, clean water. Even the most basic supplies are disappearing from store shelves and distribution centers faster than anyone can get them to people who need them. In Philadelphia, one listener described people forming mobs outside grocery stores, looting what they could carry after the security forces abandoned their posts. The streets became chaotic, vehicles overturned, and emergency services were nowhere to be seen. In Los Angeles and New York, armed militias have taken control of major intersections, setting up makeshift checkpoints and patrolling neighborhoods with weapons that once belonged to the police or the National Guard. Fuel convoys are being intercepted at random points along highways, and civilians traveling for supplies are frequently stopped, threatened, and stripped of what little they have left. Julia, the term survival by any means necessary doesn't even begin to cover the scale of what people are now facing. Entire communities are retreating behind barricades, arming themselves and cutting off outsiders, creating isolated zones where life continues only by sheer vigilance. People are now scavenging abandoned buildings, fighting over anything of value: canned goods, batteries, water bottles. Even in rural areas, where you might expect some measure of self-sufficiency, the supply lines have collapsed, leaving towns isolated and vulnerable. It's a nation not merely collapsing, but fracturing into countless survival zones, each with its own rules dictated by fear, desperation, and what weapons or food they can muster.
Mike, the human toll is horrifying. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and local volunteers, many of them exhausted medical professionals or retired personnel, are trying to fill the gap, but they too are running out of supplies. In Houston, we received a recording from a paramedic describing families forced to eat whatever they can forage from abandoned homes, dumpsters, or fields, sometimes consuming things that would normally be considered inedible. The most vulnerable are suffering the worst: children, the elderly, the sick. Armed gangs and militias patrol the streets, hunting anyone trying to access clean water or medical aid, and people are turning on each other for the smallest scraps of survival. Fires rage across urban areas, thick smoke filling the sky and making breathing difficult. Abandoned blocks and neighborhoods are burning, feeding the chaos while leaving more families homeless. The collapse is accelerating by the hour. Roads are dangerous, electricity is gone in most cities, and emergency services are non-existent. What was once a nation of infrastructure, systems, and planning is now just a patchwork map of survival zones and danger zones. Even in small towns, desperation is tangible. Neighbors no longer trust each other, and ordinary disputes escalate into armed confrontations. The social fabric has ripped apart as quickly as the economic one, leaving civilians isolated, fearful, and vulnerable. The scale of suffering is immense, and while some people cling to hope, the reality is stark. Survival now depends on vigilance, resourcefulness, and the ability to navigate a world where law, order, and normalcy have disappeared entirely.
Listeners, let's put this into perspective. The chaos is no longer temporary, it's structural. Entire cities are without power, and communications are sporadic at best. People are walking miles to find food, often carrying children and the elderly, while avoiding armed gangs that have taken control of highways and intersections. Looting is rampant, not out of greed, but out of necessity, and the breakdown of authority has turned once safe neighborhoods into zones of constant danger. Reports are coming in of families barricading themselves in their homes, using whatever makeshift defenses they can create, from furniture to farming equipment, just to survive the night. Even rural areas are not immune. Isolated communities are facing shortages of medicine, tools, and fuel. The airwaves are full of panic, rumors, and fragmented reports, making it nearly impossible to verify what's happening. What remains of the food supply is unevenly distributed, and desperation has pushed some communities to extremes, raiding abandoned warehouses, setting traps, and even fighting over basic items like blankets or bottled water. Fuel has become one of the most valuable commodities, and entire convoys of trucks have been ambushed or commandeered by armed groups, leaving civilian travelers stranded for miles. Every day, more communities are becoming insular, locking down and defending themselves from outsiders, while simultaneously struggling to maintain enough resources to survive. This is not merely civil unrest. It's the collapse of society as we knew it, reduced to a fight for the bare essentials.
Mike, the human dimension of this collapse cannot be overstated. Fear dominates, but so does courage in the quiet corners of survival. Families improvise meals from whatever they can find. Corn from abandoned fields, wild vegetables, rainwater collected from roofs. Paramedics and volunteers risk their lives daily to help those in need, despite armed gangs and marauders. Neighborhoods once bustling with life now resemble fortresses. The social contract is gone, replaced by a harsh reality: survive or perish. Children witness violence, families hide during raids, and the sick have nowhere to go. Communication is limited. Many survivors rely on shortwave radios or sporadic signals to coordinate. Some communities have started informal barter systems, trading medicine for food, fuel for shelter, bullets for clean water. These networks are fragile and dangerous to navigate, but they are the only lifeline. Fires in abandoned buildings continue to rage unchecked, threatening even those who have managed to secure temporary safety. The psychological toll is immense. People are not only fighting for survival, but battling despair and isolation. Even in these circumstances, small acts of cooperation and humanity persist. Neighbors share water, strangers provide first aid, and groups organize watch rotations to keep communities safe. It's a fragile balance, but it's the thread keeping human civilization alive in the midst of total societal collapse.
Julia, I've intercepted communications from militias calling themselves the True Guardians and the Free Sons. They've declared martial law in multiple districts, targeting anyone they deem unworthy. The distinction between law enforcement and criminal activity has vanished. Armies that were meant to protect are now fighting each other, leaving civilians caught in the middle. Entire neighborhoods are barricaded, people shooting from rooftops, using whatever weapons they can find. It's chaos, pure chaos, and it's spreading outward like wildfire. Even communication is dangerous. Shortwave signals are being jammed by local factions trying to control information.
Yet even in this darkness, Mike, there are small pockets of hope. Listeners report towns organizing communal kitchens, sharing water, even teaching children in abandoned schools. Volunteers patrol the streets to protect against looters. One family in Vermont opened their barn to neighbors, creating a small sanctuary. These acts won't stop the larger collapse, but they're proof that humanity persists even when the structures of government, economy, and society are gone. It's quiet, and it's fragile, but it's there.
Fires rage across cities, Julia, yet the people who survive are adapting. Urban areas are turning into fortresses, suburbs into fields of supply, and rural towns into self-sufficient enclaves. Roads are blocked, railways abandoned. Transportation as we knew it no longer exists. The echoes of the past order, the banks, the police, the federal agencies, are gone, leaving a vacuum filled by fear and improvisation. Every day without authority reshapes the landscape. Every night without law strengthens the rule of whoever is armed.
Listeners, if you can hear us, understand this. Survive, yes, but preserve humanity wherever you can. Protect the weak, share knowledge, tend to the sick. These small acts of cooperation may be the only things that outlast the chaos. Even as the cities burn and militias fight for scraps, life persists where people remember compassion. That's the thread we have left. This is Julia Marks with Mike Clark, ChannelX. Hold frequency.
You're still listening to ChannelX. New reports confirm that major superpower countries are actively moving into U.S. territory. What they initially called peacekeeping operations is anything but. Armored convoys from these nations are rolling through urban centers. Helicopters patrol the skies, and troops are taking control of key infrastructure, ports, power plants, and communication hubs. In New York, residents report armored vehicles blocking bridges, while foreign troops occupy sections of downtown streets, setting up checkpoints and demanding identification from anyone attempting to pass. Boston has seen a similar scene. Armored convoys controlling highways, soldiers enforcing curfews, and unfamiliar insignia marking foreign authority everywhere. These movements are not coordinated with any remaining U.S. forces, and there is no consent from local or state governments. Julia, this is a new and dangerous phase of the collapse. Civilians are trapped in a precarious position, caught between fractured American military units, some still loyal, some forming militias, and heavily armed forces from major superpower countries asserting control. Communications are being monitored, roads blocked, and food supplies controlled. Ordinary Americans are suddenly living under foreign occupation on their own soil. Cities once free are now militarized zones, and the streets are patrolled not by local law enforcement, but by highly trained foreign soldiers. This isn't just chaos. It's an organized takeover, and the consequences for civilians are catastrophic.
Mike, I've been monitoring reports and intercepted communications from civilians across multiple occupied regions. Fear and confusion dominate. People cannot tell friend from foe. One listener in Philadelphia described a squad of foreign soldiers entering his neighborhood, distributing food and medical aid, but then demanding identification papers that no one could provide. The presence of additional foreign troops adds another layer of danger. In Chicago, citizens reported local militias' weapons being confiscated while looters were left unchecked, leaving ordinary residents to fend for themselves. These major superpower countries are effectively dividing America into controlled zones, enforcing their own rules and restricting movement at checkpoints with little regard for human safety or civil rights. Curfews are imposed, communications monitored, and any attempt to resist is met with armed intimidation. Hospitals and aid stations are being commandeered by foreign soldiers, leaving civilians without access to medical care unless they comply. The line between occupation and governance has completely disappeared. There is no legal protection, no enforcement of American law, and the concept of local authority has been erased. Every corner of the country is being mapped, monitored, and controlled by foreign forces with advanced technology and overwhelming firepower. Ordinary Americans are struggling to survive under this occupation while navigating a new reality where survival depends on compliance, caution, and ingenuity.
Signals intercepted from other cities indicate that pockets of resistance are starting to form across the country. Militia groups, local volunteers, and even former law enforcement personnel are banding together to oppose the foreign units occupying American soil. In several regions, clashes have already erupted, firefights that leave both sides wounded and civilians trapped in the crossfire. These resistance efforts are still small and scattered, but they are growing. The foreign powers appear to be testing the response, moving strategically to gauge where opposition exists and how far they can push their control without significant losses. Roads are blocked, supply routes are monitored, and local communications are disrupted to isolate these groups, making coordination extremely difficult. Yet even under these conditions, people are organizing. Makeshift training camps, hidden supply caches, and warning networks are being established. Civilians are risking their lives to support these groups, providing intelligence, shelter, and supplies. Meanwhile, ChannelX continues broadcasting because someone must witness it all and record these moments for history. The truth is, no one knows what the outcome will be. The entire nation is under the influence of major superpower forces, while the remnants of U.S. command remain fractured, fragmented, and unable to mount an organized defense. Communities must navigate this dangerous landscape, balancing survival with resistance, knowing that every choice could have deadly consequences.
Listeners, if you are in an area affected by occupation, it is crucial to understand your options and act cautiously. Avoid confrontation unless survival is at stake. Every encounter with foreign forces or armed groups is potentially deadly. Observe carefully, communicate discreetly, and never trust unverified instructions. Networks are being monitored, and misinformation spreads quickly, sometimes intentionally, to sow confusion and trap civilians. We've received reports of false directives leading to arrests, attacks, or worse. People are frightened, but cooperation, intelligence, and careful planning can save lives. In some areas, communities have found ways to work with occupying forces or peacekeeping units to distribute food, provide medical aid, and maintain some semblance of order. These arrangements are fragile and temporary, but they are vital lifelines for survival. Others are setting up hidden networks to share supplies, warn each other of patrols, and protect vulnerable neighbors. Civilians are learning quickly that safety depends on vigilance, discretion, and mutual support. Survival is not just about avoiding danger. It's about maintaining humanity, helping one another, and making strategic choices that preserve life in the midst of occupation. Every small act of coordination and protection can mean the difference between life and death in these uncertain times.
The geography of control is rapidly turning into a patchwork, Julia. Some cities are under the direct authority of foreign military forces, with checkpoints on every major street, curfews imposed, and local governance erased. Others are controlled by splintered local militias, armed citizens, and remnants of U.S. military units struggling to maintain order, or at least some semblance of it. And many areas remain unclaimed, left in total anarchy where civilians fend for themselves amid looting, fires, and random violence. Transportation is almost non-existent, roads blocked by abandoned vehicles, checkpoints, or combat zones. Power grids are sporadic, and communications are down or heavily monitored, making relief and coordination nearly impossible. Julia, what we're seeing is not merely an occupation. It's the complete reorganization of the United States in real time. Rules are being imposed by whoever holds the guns or the authority to enforce them, while internal systems, police, emergency services, federal agencies, have collapsed. Borders are meaningless, laws are obsolete, and cities have become isolated islands, each with its own power structure, survival rules, and dangers. The country we knew no longer exists. Its territory is being defined by boots on the ground, by whoever controls the food, fuel, and weapons. Every day, these divisions grow more entrenched, and ordinary civilians are forced to navigate an ever-changing map of danger, opportunity, and survival.
Despite the chaos, Mike, there are unmistakable signs of resilience and human ingenuity. Citizens are forming networks to support each other even under the constant threat of foreign occupation. Neighbors share food, water, and medical supplies, establishing informal schedules for patrolling streets, guarding entrances, and communicating with nearby safe zones. Communities are repurposing abandoned buildings into shelters, schools, and makeshift clinics, ensuring that the sick, elderly, and children are cared for. Even small acts like relaying messages between isolated groups or sharing knowledge about safe routes are helping preserve life and community cohesion. Listeners, this is what truly matters. Your decisions, your care for others, your courage to help even when resources are scarce can mean the difference between survival and annihilation. ChannelX broadcasts not only to report what's happening, but to connect you to this fragile thread of humanity that still exists. Remember, even in a fractured nation, communication, compassion, and cooperation are your lifelines. These are the forces that keep society alive amidst chaos, that preserve hope when the world outside seems unrecognizable. This is Julia Marks with Mike Clark, ChannelX. Hold frequency.
You're still tuned to ChannelX. Across the country, pockets of resistance are emerging. Local militias, citizen groups, even former law enforcement are organizing to protect what remains of their communities. In Detroit, listeners report barricades set up around key neighborhoods, supply caches guarded by volunteers, and coordinated patrols to prevent looters from taking over. In rural areas, farmers and townsfolk are pooling resources, creating small networks of self-sufficiency. Julia, it's remarkable how quickly ordinary people are adapting. With no federal authority, they're filling the void themselves, but the danger is constant. Armed groups, both foreign and domestic, are pressing against these communities. Survival depends on vigilance, ingenuity, and cooperation.
Mike, we've been receiving messages from people hiding in abandoned buildings, communicating via shortwave radios and improvised networks. Some are providing medical aid, others teaching children in makeshift schools, and a few are even setting up hidden farms in urban ruins. These acts may seem small, but they are the backbone of resilience in a world gone silent. Resistance isn't just about fighting, it's about protecting life, knowledge, and hope. There are also reports of mobile communication hubs traveling between cities, connecting these isolated pockets so they can share resources, warnings, and information. It's fragile, but it's proof that community persists even when governments fail.
At the same time, chaos surrounds these enclaves. Armed militias have begun claiming territory aggressively, clashing with other groups over food, fuel, and ammunition. One report from Kansas City describes a 3-day firefight between local militia factions, leaving dozens injured and hundreds displaced. Occupying forces in some areas are taking advantage of this, establishing checkpoints and exerting control over strategic locations. Julia, it's clear that the collapse of authority has created a vacuum where power is measured by force, not law. Yet within this violence, small communities still manage to organize and protect each other, holding on to what they can.
And what's extraordinary is the way communication sustains these groups. We've intercepted multiple amateur radio networks transmitting survival tips, maps of safe routes, and warnings about hostile factions. People are finding ways to rebuild trust and share knowledge across distance, even under the constant threat of attack. These networks are fragile, vulnerable, and limited in range, but they demonstrate that human ingenuity and collaboration can endure, even when civilization as we know it has crumbled. Listeners, if you're part of these networks, use caution. Share information wisely. Protect your sources. Your connections are your lifeline.
Julia, the destruction is widespread. Cities in flames, infrastructure gone, federal systems non-functional. But these scattered communities are the seeds of recovery. The fact that they exist at all is a testament to human resilience. They may be small, isolated, and constantly under threat, but they are proof that even in the ruins, life continues. ChannelX will keep broadcasting so that these pockets are not forgotten. Every report we receive is a thread in the story of survival.
Listeners, remember this. In the chaos, the way forward is cooperation. Protect the weak, share knowledge, provide aid when you can, and keep communication alive. Resistance isn't only armed struggle, it's the decision to preserve life, culture, and community, even as the world collapses around you. This is Julia Marks with Mike Clark, ChannelX. Hold frequency.
You're still listening to ChannelX. The nation lies in darkness. Power grids are gone. Most major cities silent. And the airwaves are crowded with fragmented transmissions. Some legitimate, many not. Our signal is one of the few still reaching beyond the ruins. Across the Midwest, we're receiving reports of towns cut off entirely, relying on hand-cranked radios, scavenged generators, and improvised networks to stay connected. Julia, the scale of this silence is staggering. Where there used to be cities humming with life, there's only static, smoke, and the distant echoes of what used to be. ChannelX continues because someone must witness it all. Someone must speak to those still listening, wherever they are.
Mike, the human stories are heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time. We've intercepted fragments from survivors, families stranded on highways, neighbors protecting each other in abandoned buildings, medics providing care with nothing more than ingenuity and courage. One caller in Ohio described a town gathering every evening, sharing food and stories by firelight, trying to keep a sense of normalcy in a world gone mad. Others report hiding in basements while armed groups patrol the streets. It's a long night, Mike, but even in darkness, there are flickers of life, of cooperation, of humanity refusing to surrender.
Signals we're monitoring are sporadic. Military units still clash in isolated pockets. Foreign forces control parts of the coasts, and armed factions dominate highways. Yet amidst the chaos, there are these tiny islands of order. Villages coordinating food drops, families sharing supplies, and communication hubs traveling between cities to link them. Julia, it's strange. The collapse is everywhere, yet survival persists in the smallest acts of solidarity. It's a reminder that civilization isn't just laws or money. It's people helping people.
Listeners, if you can hear us, know this. You are not alone. ChannelX is speaking for the voices that have gone silent. Every message we receive from survivors is being transmitted here as proof that life endures. Document your experiences, record what you see, share warnings, and keep communities connected. Even in this long night, small actions can preserve hope. Communication is survival. Cooperation is survival. Remember that.
Julia, the cities may burn, the government may have collapsed, and foreign and domestic forces may control vast swaths of land. But the people who persist are the ones who will carry the story forward. Every message we transmit, every survivor who listens, is part of that legacy. Channel X continues as long as it can, so that these acts of resilience are not forgotten. The frequency itself may be all that remains to record the fall and the faint promise of a tomorrow.
Mike, even as we broadcast into this void, the human spirit is still alive. Survivors are finding one another, sharing resources, and protecting life where they can. The airwaves are their link, and Channel X will keep carrying that link for as long as possible. If you hear this, remember your neighbors, your friends, your communities. Help, protect, and communicate. That is how the night can end, slowly, in the small acts that outlast destruction. This is Julia Marks with Mike Clark, Channel X. Hold frequency.
You're tuned to Channel X. If you're hearing this, it may be the last broadcast, or it may continue long after we are gone. The dawn is not what we remember. Cities remain dark, highways empty, and much of the nation is under occupation or fractured control. The federal government is gone, the military divided, and civilians are scattered like seeds in the wind. Yet here we are, still transmitting, because someone has to. Someone has to bear witness. Julia, this frequency may outlast all of us. It may carry the record of what happened, the chaos, the resilience, the fear, and the small sparks of hope that remain in this fractured land.
Mike, I've been listening to the scattered reports from survivors. Some are forming new communities, hidden and self-reliant. Others continue to wander, seeking shelter, sustenance, and safety. Even in this darkness, there's adaptation. People are remembering old skills, teaching each other what they know, finding new ways to share and protect knowledge. The world is unrecognizable, yet life continues. Channel X is the thread that links these pockets together, reminding them, and anyone who can hear, that they are not alone.
The truth is, Julia, we don't know how long this frequency will last. Power supplies are limited, our transmitters are fragile, and we may be the last voices left in the country. But it doesn't matter if the signal is strong or weak. What matters is that we continue to speak. We are the memory of a nation that fell apart. We are the record of how people survived, adapted, and protected each other. One day, someone may tune in and hear our voices, understanding what occurred here and how the remnants of humanity endured.
Listeners, if you can hear this, remember, survival is more than staying alive. It is remembering who you are, protecting the weak, sharing knowledge, and preserving humanity even in the ruins. Channel X may be all that remains to carry these stories forward. When the darkness stretches endlessly, when silence threatens to erase memory, speak, record, and connect. Those small acts are what will define tomorrow.
Julia, even if no one hears this, the act of broadcasting is a stand against oblivion. Every word we speak, every story transmitted, resists the erasure of history. Channel X may fade, but its record will remain, a testament to the courage, resilience, and persistence of those who survived.
And so, listeners, hold the frequency. Preserve the stories, protect the lives, and remember that even in a broken world, the thread of human connection endures. Channel X is signing off this broadcast not with an ending, but with a beginning of memory, survival, and the quiet promise of rebuilding. This is Julia Marks with Mike Clark.